Let us continue our discussion on epilepsy. In the previous class, what we had discussed what actually epilepsy is, what is the difference between seizure and epilepsy, what are the types of epilepsy, and then we discussed what can be the targets for the anti-epileptic drugs. So briefly we had discussed the mechanism of action of anti-epileptic drugs, and broadly we had seen there were four broad categories as far as mechanism of action of anti-epileptic drugs were concerned. What were those four broad categories? One was drugs which block sodium channel or calcium channel. Second was enhances the GABAergic activity. Third was inhibit the glutamate activity, and that was it, because sodium channel, calcium channel, then GABAergic, and then glutamate. So these were the four categories that we had seen. Now, based on these four categories, we had seen various drugs which were acting upon these targets. For example, we had seen phenytoin. Phenytoin was in a therapeutic dose, it is a sodium channel blocker. Same is the action of carbamazepine. Then what about ethosuximide? It was a calcium channel blocker, mainly useful for what type of seizure? Absence seizure. What about valproate? Yes, valproate had got a very broad spectrum of anti-epileptic activity because it was hitting all those four targets. It was blocking sodium channel, it was blocking calcium channel, it was enhancing the GABAergic activity, it was inhibiting the glutamate activity, and because it was hitting all those four targets, it is useful for both grand mal epilepsy as well as petit mal epilepsy. And in fact, it is only single drug which is useful in both. Among the classical anti-epileptic, it is the drug which is useful in both petit mal epilepsy as well as the grand mal epilepsy, or GTCS and absence seizure. Whereas if you see a scenario of ethosuximide only helps in absence seizure, whereas phenytoin, though it helps in GTCS, but it doesn't help in absence seizure. Same is the case of carbamazepine. Now, these drugs, along with a barbiturate such as phenobarbital, we categorize them as older anti-epileptic drug or classical anti-epileptic drugs. Now, these drugs have got certain drawbacks, certain shortcomings. It can be in the terms of adverse events. It can be in the terms of pharmacokinetics properties, or in terms of drug interactions, drug-drug interactions, or in terms of whether these drugs are safer to be used during pregnancy. So there are certain drawbacks of these classical anti-epileptic drugs. To overcome those drawbacks, the scientists searched for the newer anti-epileptic drug so that they can avoid the older anti-epileptic drugs side effects or their shortcomings in the pharmacokinetic profile, or their shortcomings as far as the drug interactions are concerned. So among these newer anti-epileptic drugs, we have drugs such as lamotrigine, levetiracetam, felbamate, topiramate, gabapentin, among various other drugs. Now let us start discussing these drugs one by one. First, we will discuss about the older or the classical anti-epileptic drugs. And let us first start our discussion with phenobarbital, which is a barbiturate. While we were discussing about sedative hypnotics, we had discussed, or we had a discussion about phenobarbital also. What we had seen or what we had noticed that phenobarbital is a drug which has got a specific anticonvulsant action, which was independent of its CNS depressant action. So if you compare its anticonvulsant action with the sedative action, it has got higher anticonvulsant action. So what does it mean? It means that we can get anti-epileptic action in low dosage of phenobarbital without inducing too much sedation or with acceptable sedation. And another good thing is that on prolonged uses, tolerance develops to the sedative action of phenobarbital, but on prolonged uses, tolerance doesn't develops to the anticonvulsant action of phenobarbital. Are you getting my point? Even if you use phenobarbital for very longer period, gradually tolerance will develop to the sedation. Like on long-term use, patient will not be sedated, but the anticonvulsant effect will remain as such. Another good thing is that it is highly efficacious as far as its anticonvulsant action is concerned, long acting, and it is cheaper. So in a context of developing country, these drugs can be useful, but there are certain drawbacks. Apart from the sedation to which tolerance develops on long-term uses, it has got low therapeutic index. We were discussing about barbiturate. It is one of the barbiturate. So even on slight increase in doses, the margin of safety will be very narrow. So the chances of respiratory depression or cardiovascular depression will be there on increasing the dose. The other thing is that these are inducer of CYP450. We were discussing about barbiturates, and one of the drawback of barbiturate is that these are the inducer of CYP450. They can induce the metabolism of other drugs given along with these drugs. Apart from that, these drug enhances the effect of other CNS depressant drugs given along with these. Primidone is a deoxybarbiturate and it is mainly bioactivated into phenobarbital. But with primidone also the CYP450 induction will be there. So because of all these drawbacks, nowadays these drugs have been replaced by a better drug which is available in the market nowadays with better safety profile, with less chances of drug interactions. Adverse effects, I have already told you sedation can happen, but tolerance develops to the sedative effect on prolonged uses. Apart from that one thing that is very interesting, in children it can induce paradoxical excitement. Though it is a CNS depressant per se, but it may lead to excitatory features in children. So behavior abnormality can appear in children. So it should be avoided in a children in the age group of 2 to 10 years. It can be used in GTCS or grand mal epilepsy, in partial seizure both simple and complex. In status epilepticus it can be used, but it is not effective in absence seizure. And because of the various shortcomings, as I have told you, phenobarbital has been replaced by better drugs that are available in the market. Now let us discuss about phenytoin, which is also known as hydantoins. Phenytoin, the interesting thing is that originally they were derived from barbiturates. But the thing is, though they are derived from barbiturates, the mechanism of action of phenytoin is different from that of barbiturate. And in contrast to barbiturate, which induces sedative effect on higher dosage, it can also induce hypnotic effect. Phenytoin do not induce sedation or hypnosis, or it has got more sedative or hypnotic action. Mechanism of action of phenytoin we have discussed in the previous class. What was the mechanism of action of phenytoin? Yes, it blocks the voltage dependent sodium channel, and it shows the phenomenon of use dependence. What it does, it prolongs the inactivated state of the sodium channel. So what it is doing, it is actually inhibiting the inactivated state of the sodium channel. And because it is prolonging the inactivated state of the sodium channel, it limits the repetitive firing of the excitatory neurons by slowing the rate of recovery of voltage gated sodium channel from inactive state. These things we have discussed in detail in the previous class, so I will not discuss it again in this class. Now, because it is blocking or it is prolonging the inactivated state of the sodium channel, and by this action it is inhibiting the high frequency repeated firing of the excitatory neurons, it can be effective in other disorders such as trigeminal neuralgia or cardiac arrhythmias. This action is seen in therapeutic doses, but in higher concentration, it might also reduce the calcium influx, it might inhibit the glutamate, and it might facilitate the GABA response. But that is in the higher doses. But in higher doses, if you use phenytoin, you will encounter certain types of adverse effects, particularly the cerebellar manifestations will start appearing, such as ataxia, nystagmus, So these are the adverse effects that you will start noticing in the higher dosage of phenytoin. So we avoid using higher doses of phenytoin. Now just closely look the pharmacokinetic aspects of these classical anti-epileptic drugs. From two contexts, one whether they are highly plasma protein bound, the second thing is whether they are enzyme inducer or enzyme inhibitor. Now if you see phenytoin, phenytoin is highly plasma protein bound. So there will be chances of interaction of phenytoin with other highly plasma protein bound drugs such as valproate. And as far as its metabolism is concerned, it is metabolized by hydroxylation involving CYP2C9 and CYP2C19. And then it is conjugated. And it follows the saturation kinetics, or we can say its kinetics of metabolism is capacity limited. What does it mean? If we say that it follows saturation kinetics or its kinetics of metabolism is capacity limited, what does it mean? It means that its order of kinetic will change from first order kinetics to zero order kinetic if you increase the doses. So phenytoin at low doses, it will exhibit the first order kinetic. But it starts following zero order kinetics at the higher plasma concentration. So we had discussed, or we had seen while we were discussing the pharmacokinetic chapter, that in zero order kinetic, even slighter increase in the dose leads to very higher increase in plasma concentration. So if you have increased the dosage and its order of kinetic has changed from first order to zero order kinetics, then it will start manifesting the dosage which is usually seen at a higher plasma concentration. And that's why very strict monitoring of plasma concentration while the patient is on phenytoin therapy is needed. The other thing is that phenytoin is an inducer of CYP2C8 and C9 and CYP3A4 and 5. It induces the metabolism of other drugs, and you have to be careful if you are prescribing phenytoin to a patient who is taking hormonal contraceptives or warfarin. Rather avoid phenytoins in those categories of patients, because these might induce the metabolism of those drugs and you will get decreased efficacy of the drugs given along with phenytoin. So these are less commonly used nowadays because of its disadvantages as far as its pharmacokinetic profile is concerned. And in GTCS or partial seizure, these can only be used, or these should only be used if you are not getting the required effect from the other drugs, other first line drugs, or patient cannot tolerate those drugs. These drugs have got no effect in absent seizure. In status epilepticus, fosphenytoin is preferred rather than phenytoin. Fosphenytoin is a prodrug, it gets rapidly converted to phenytoin in the blood. and provide high level of phenytoin within minutes. And the good thing is that fosphenytoin can be administered by IM route or IV route. Phenytoin can also be used in trigeminal neuralgia, but the preferred drug for trigeminal neuralgia is carbamazepine. Now let's come to the important thing about phenytoin, the adverse effects. The adverse effect of phenytoin, broadly we can categorize into the adverse effect which is seen at the therapeutic level and adverse effect that is seen at a higher plasma concentration. So adverse effect that is seen at the therapeutic level, such as hirsutism, acne, gum hypertrophy and gingival hyperplasia, megaloblastic anemia, vitamin D deficiency, hyperglycemia, and if used in pregnancy it can lead to fetal Hydantoin syndrome. This is a picture of phenytoin induced gingival hyperplasia. But if you stop the drug or if you discontinue phenytoin, this gingival hyperplasia reduces or the patient recovers gradually. At high plasma levels, you can notice the cerebellar and vestibular manifestations. As we were discussing the pharmacokinetics, as you increase the dose, its pharmacokinetic, because it follows the saturation kinetic or its kinetics of metabolism is capacity limited, its order of kinetic can change from first order to zero order kinetics, and in zero order kinetic even smaller increase in dose will lead to very high increase in plasma concentration. So once the drug has started following the zero order kinetics, you will start noticing these cerebellar and vestibular manifestations such as ataxia, vertigo, diplopia, nystagmus. So that's why I was telling you, though it inhibits calcium channel at higher doses, but we don't prefer phenytoin in higher doses because of the adverse effect that can be seen in higher doses of phenytoin. Have you understood? Fetal Hydantoin syndrome is the another thing. See, anti-epileptic drug use and pregnancy is a very debatable topic. Anti-epileptic drugs should not be stopped during pregnancy, that we will discuss later on. But there are certain other measures that should be taken. But as far as phenytoin is concerned, if used during pregnancy, it can lead to cleft lip, cleft palate, microcephaly, hypoplasia of the nails, and it can also induce cardiac defects. So the chances of fetal malformations in children born to epileptic mother who was prescribed phenytoin is very high. So as far as possible, we should avoid drugs such as phenytoin during pregnancy. The other alternative measures should be taken that we will discuss. Now let us discuss about carbamazepine. It is derived from tricyclic antidepressants and very commonly used in clinical practice, because apart from treatment of epilepsy, it has got other roles. For example, in the treatment of trigeminal neuralgia, In trigeminal neuralgia, it is the first choice drug. As a mood stabilizer, because it has got lithium-like action. It can also be used in neuropathic pain. As a mood stabilizer, I have already told you it can be used in bipolar disorders. Its mechanism of action, though we are not very much aware about its mechanism of action, but whatever we know, we can say that its mechanism of action resembles to that of phenytoin. So that it stabilizes the sodium channel in inactivated state. And it also resembles phenytoin in pharmacological actions. As far as its pharmacokinetic is concerned, one important thing that you should know, it gets metabolized in liver and it forms the active metabolite 10,11 epoxy carbamazepine, which actually contributes to its anticonvulsant action. But the bad thing about carbamazepine is that it is also a powerful inducer of CYP enzyme. It can induce its own metabolism. It can induce the metabolism of other drugs given along with it, such as phenytoin, warfarin. So the combination of carbamazepine with other drug, particularly other antiepileptic drugs, should be avoided. And also because it is an enzyme inducer, it might reduce the efficacy of the oral contraceptive pills and other drugs. So what we are noticing, phenobarbital enzyme induction was a problem, phenytoin enzyme induction was a problem, carbamazepine enzyme induction was a problem. So that is one of the biggest drawback as far as these drugs are concerned. Apart from with phenytoin, we have seen it has got a peculiar pharmacokinetic profile. As far as adverse effects of carbamazepine is concerned, it is well tolerable drug. Dose related adverse effect can happen, such as diplopia, ataxia, drowsiness, dizziness. But to avoid these dose related side effects, it is better to start carbamazepine in low doses. Non-dose related adverse effect, which is very rare but can happen, is severe bone marrow depression, and also risk of teratogenicity is there. See, with barbiturate, risk of teratogenicity is there. With phenytoin, risk of teratogenicity is there. With carbamazepine, risk of teratogenicity is there. Just notice the peculiar point or the salient feature of these antiepileptic drugs. So their mechanism of action is similar to phenytoin. Their pharmacological action is resembling phenytoin. Their clinical usage is also similar to phenytoin. They can be used in complex partial and GTCS seizure, but they have got no effect in absent seizure. Till now, what we have seen, phenobarbital has got no effect in absent seizure. Phenytoin has got no effect in absent seizure. Carbamazepine has also got no effect in absent seizure. Other usage of carbamazepine, similar to phenytoin, it can be used in trigeminal neuralgia. But in trigeminal neuralgia, carbamazepine is the first choice drug. Phenytoin can be used as a second choice to carbamazepine. In bipolar disorder, it can be used because it has got lithium-like action. Oxcarbazepine is a prodrug and its action is similar to that of carbamazepine, and its activity is due to 10-hydroxy metabolite, and it has got lesser chances of inducing the adverse effect compared to carbamazepine. Now let us discuss about valproate, which is also known as valproic acid or sodium valproate, which is a very commonly used anti-epileptic drug. And it is not related to any known anti-epileptic drug, and it was discovered accidentally, and it has got very broad spectrum of action. Why it has got very broad spectrum of action? Yes, it has got multiplicity of action. It not only blocks the sodium channel, it also blocks the calcium channel, it also enhances the GABAergic activity, it blocks the glutamate activity. And particularly in the context of children, it gives very good effect, but you have to be cautious about a rare side effect, that is hepatotoxicity, that we will discuss later on. Apart from its anti-epileptic action, it has also got a mood stabilizer action, so it can be used in manic depressive psychosis, particularly in a patient where epilepsy is present as a comorbidity. A relatively safer drug with low toxicity. Its mechanism of action we have discussed multiple times, and it has got multiple mechanism of action. So like phenytoin, it inhibits sodium channel. Like ethosuximide, it inhibits the calcium mediated T current channel. It augments the release of inhibitory or it augments the release of GABA, or it facilitates the GABAergic inhibition. It decreases the glutamate activity. Now let us discuss its pharmacokinetic. Now it is also very highly plasma protein bound. It is up to 90% bound to plasma protein. So the chances of interaction with drugs such as phenytoin will be there. It might displace phenytoin from protein binding site, and thus it can lead to phenytoin toxicity. The other thing is that it is a CYP450 inhibitor. Now till now we have discussed phenobarbital, phenytoin, carbamazepine, all these were CYP450 inducer, whereas valproate is CYP450 inhibitor. So because it is a CYP450 inhibitor, it might inhibit the metabolism of other drug given along with it, and it increases their plasma level. Now as far as adverse effect is concerned, overall it has got very low toxicity, very minimal sedative effect. But one thing that you have to be very careful, particularly in the context of children, that it can lead to severe hepatotoxicity. It can produce fulminant hepatitis, particularly in children less than 3 years of age. But the good thing is that this side effect is very rare, but if it happens, it is very serious. The other bad thing is that it can, or it has got the risk of teratogenicity. It can lead to defect of neural tube. It can produce spina bifida. So it is better to opt for alternative drugs or safer options, particularly in females of reproductive age. Where we can clinically use valproate, in what type of epilepsy we can use? Yes, initially we had told you this is the only drug which is effective in GTCS as well as in absence seizure or grand mal epilepsy as well as petit mal. It can be used in GTCS and it is a drug of choice in myoclonic seizure and in atonic seizure. Other uses, already I have told you, it can be used in bipolar disorders because it has got mood stabilizing action, can be used in panic attacks, and migraine you have already read. In the prophylaxis of migraine, we can also use valproate. So sometimes you are asked about the other uses of valproate. So just remember these other uses. Now ethosuximide, its mechanism of action is T-type calcium channel inhibition, and because it only inhibits the T-type calcium channel, it is only used in absence seizure. So its primary indication is absence seizure. Adverse effects, it is relatively well tolerable drug. Then benzodiazepines. Now benzodiazepines, mainly used agents are clonazepam, diazepam, lorazepam and clobazam. And they have got GABA facilitatory action. We have already discussed the mechanism of action of benzodiazepines and barbiturates and how they are different, so we are not going to discuss it again. Drugs such as lorazepam, diazepam, clonazepam can be used in status epilepticus, particularly lorazepam, diazepam can be used in IV route for status epilepticus. In febrile seizure, diazepam is a drug of choice. Diazepam given rectally is a drug of choice for febrile seizure. But the bad thing about benzodiazepine is that on long-term uses, there are chances that tolerance might develop to its anti-epileptic effect. So that's why benzodiazepines are more preferred for a short-term uses in an emergency setup, in a emergency control of status epilepticus. Now let us conclude the problems that we have seen with the classical anti-epileptic agents. What were the problems that we have till now discussed? Very good. The induction of CYP450. So apart from that, we had seen that some drug, if it is very highly plasma protein bound, it can be problematic. In the context of phenytoin, we have seen that it follows the saturation kinetics. Its order of kinetic can change from first order to zero order kinetics. As far as CYP enzyme was concerned, some classical anti-epileptic drug was CYP inducer, such as phenobarbital, phenytoin, carbamazepine, whereas valproate was CYP enzyme inhibitor. Because of strong plasma protein binding, the chances of drug interaction between valproate and phenytoin is there. And in the context of phenytoin, you have to closely monitor its plasma concentration. Then anti-epileptic drugs and their usage in pregnancy, which is also a very debatable topic. See what happens. Seizure is very dangerous for a pregnant lady. So you cannot think of stopping the antiepileptic drug in a pregnant lady or in pregnancy, because stopping the antiepileptic drug is more dangerous than continuation of the antiepileptic drug. But with phenytoin, we have seen that it can lead to fetal Hydantoin syndrome. Phenobarbital, carbamazepine, they have also got teratogenicity potential. Valproate, we have also seen that it can lead to neural tube defect, it can produce spina bifida. As far as newer antiepileptic drugs are concerned, we need to gather more data to say that the newer antiepileptic drugs are safer or completely safe to be used during pregnancy. One thing that we can do in second and third trimester of pregnancy, we should add folic acid supplement, and we should also give vitamin K during last week to prevent hemorrhagic disease. Say for example, if a patient is on valproate, and if the patient is female belonging to the reproductive age, and if the patient is planning for pregnancy, it is better to gradually taper the dose of valproate. Advise the patient to adopt certain barrier contraceptive method, and you can go ahead with valproate in a lowest possible dose, but you have to add folic acid supplement, and in the last trimester of pregnancy you can add vitamin K. Or the other measure that you can do, you can go for certain newer antiepileptic drug with a relatively safer profile, and you can continue, and you can add these measures such as folic acid supplement on vitamin K. Now let us discuss about newer antiepileptic drugs. Now newer antiepileptic drugs, this slide I have taken from the previous class. Till now we have discussed the classical antiepileptic agents. Now let us start with lamotrigine. Drugs such as lamotrigine, levetiracetam, in last few years they have either become the first line drug for many types of seizures, or they have been recommended as an alternative drug or add-on drug for various types of seizures. You can see lamotrigine also hits multiple targets, such as it decreases the glutamate activity, it also inhibits the sodium channel. Then same is about topiramate. Then drugs such as zonisamide, which inhibit the sodium channel and calcium channel. Then we have various drugs which enhances the GABA activity, such as gabapentin, tiagabine, vigabatrin. Let us discuss these drugs one by one. Lamotrigine. Now lamotrigine, it is a sodium channel inhibitor, and it is also a glutamate antagonistic action. It has got a broad spectrum of action, and what we have seen it gives good response even in monotherapy. So you will see later on in the end of this class, it had become first line for various type of seizures, or it has been recommended to be used as an alternative or add-on or reserve drug for various types of seizures. And it is well tolerable. Adverse effects is well predicted effects, and most importantly, it do not have any PK abnormality. Those PK pharmacokinetic side effects that we were noticing with the classical antiepileptic drugs such as phenytoin, phenobarbital, carbamazepine, valproate, these are not seen with lamotrigine. Vigabatrin is an irreversible GABA transaminase inhibitor. Because it irreversibly inhibits the GABA transaminase, it increases the availability of GABA. The important thing is that as far as safety profile is concerned, it is relatively well tolerable, and it has got no pharmacokinetic abnormality, or it do not induce or inhibit the CYP450 enzyme. It might be used in some types of epilepsy that is not responding to the other classical agents, but sometimes it can produce side effects such as acute psychotic reaction, which is usually reversible on stopping the drug. Visual disturbances can happen. Tiagabine is a GABA reuptake inhibitor. Lesser chances of pharmacokinetic interactions or PK abnormality, or it is free of PK abnormality, and a relatively safer drug. Gabapentin, it increases the GABAergic transmission by increasing its synthesis and release. And the same thing, it has got low risk of pharmacokinetic interaction and good safety profile. Then topiramate. Topiramate, it is a sodium channel inhibitor and it is also a glutamate inhibitor. It antagonizes the AMPA kinase subtype of glutamate, and it is also a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, and it has got a broad spectrum of activity and well tolerable. It can be used in refractory cases of epilepsy which is not responding to the other drugs. Levetiracetam, we are not very much sure about its mechanism of action, but one thing that we know that it modulates the synaptic neurotransmitter release by binding to synaptic vesicle protein SV2A in the brain. And again, it is free of the pharmacokinetic interactions and relatively well tolerable drug. Zonisamide, it blocks both sodium channel and calcium channel. So what we have noticed, the newer antiepileptic drug, these are free of the pharmacokinetic interaction that is usually seen with the older antiepileptic drug, and these are relatively safe or safer drug. Let us conclude this class with this particular slide of the choice of antiepileptic drugs. In GTCS, the first choice drug is valproate, or you can go for lamotrigine and carbamazepine. This slide is taken from KT Tripathi book. You can go through that. In absent seizure, tell me what drug should be used? Valproate. But valproate in children less than 3 years of age, particularly, that you have to be aware about the chances of fulminant hepatitis. Risk of hepatotoxicity is there. So as an alternative, you can go for ethosuximide. Then partial seizure, both simple and complex, the drugs are carbamazepine, lamotrigine, valproate. In myoclonic seizure, which is the drug of choice? Valproate. In atonic seizure also, valproate. Status epilepticus, you have to go for IV lorazepam or diazepam. As an alternative, you can go for fosphenytoin, and the reserve drug or add-on drug is phenobarbital. In febrile convulsion, diazepam by the rectal route is the drug of choice. So with this, we have discussed the antiepileptic drugs. I hope you have understood something out of this class. Thank you.